Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about some stuff that I think I probably should have talked about a long time ago to you guys. It's a subject that musicians talk about all the time, even after they know about it. So somebody had asked on my most recent YouTube video, Arpeggiating seventh chords, what's the difference between a scale and an arpeggio, and is a scale an arpeggio? And what an amazing question. You know, frankly, it's my fault for not addressing these names. You know, one of the things that first turned me on to this thing that we call music theory, right, was when I realized that there really isn't very much theory. It's really just us as people agreeing on the names of things, right? Whether they be notes or chords or there's things that we call scales or arpeggios or time signatures, whatever. They're just names. It's like if I had three things. This is an example I use with a lot of my students. Like if I had three things, right? Like a pen and a screwdriver and a harmonica, right? And I got three things, and then you said, hey, Jay, pass me that thing. And I said, this one? You go, no, the other one. I go, this one? You go, no, the other one. I said, this one. Yeah, that one. Well, that process took us 3 times as long, right? And, you know, sometimes in music, you know, just like in any other job, the guy that comes in and gets the job done the fastest and communicates the best is the guy that gets hired back. Even if that guy's not necessarily the most talented, they spend less money on him because, and he does just as good of a job really, or gets the job done anyway well enough because he's able to communicate. Whereas, you know, I might, if I hire, you know, to do construction, some guy and he shows up and he doesn't speak English, and I ask him to build a shed in the backyard, and you know, and I think he understands me, and he thinks, you know, I understand him, and then he goes ahead and he builds a deck on my backyard, and the deck is incredible. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's not what I asked for. It's kind of what I'm saying. So when we say things like arpeggiating or flat thirds or something, they're just names, right? Just so that we can communicate, so I can get on stage and with somebody I've never played with before, and they can go, okay, Jay, this is what we're going to do. Don't worry, it's just a blues, but hey, we're going to start from the 5 chord, you know, mid-tempo, you know, flat tire shuffle, right? Are you 1, 6, 2, 5 turnaround? Are you ready from the 5? 1, 2 in E, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. Now, like, that's something I run into all the time in my whole life. And for a long time, I didn't know what any of that stuff meant, and it took me forever. And I was very, very resistant, y'all, to learning about this stuff. I was like, hey, listen, you know, I'm already a good player. I don't need to know all that stuff. And Lil Walter didn't know all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Whether any of that's true or not, I needed to know that stuff. And eventually, thanks to some very patient and nurturing people, over a period of time, it took me a while, you know, I kind of relaxed a little bit and started saying, okay, like, so what's a major third? And they would say, okay, well, look, say we're in the key of C. And I go, okay, C. And they go, C is 1, C. D is 2, 2. E is 3, 3. That's a major third. Well, what's a flat third then? Okay, C, D, E, flat. Holy Christmas. So that's what you guys mean? Yeah. Well, what's a sharp 1? C, C sharp, D. That's how I learned the Nashville numbering system. Just, you know, and that took me 20 years to be able to listen without freaking out that I couldn't do it because I was afraid I didn't know math well enough or music theory or any of that stuff. So anyway, Today we're going to start with addressing the questions. And you know what? That person, I forget whose name it was, and whoever you are, thank you. Because this is a really important thing. And you know, I'm putting this video up today. Like, I'm not waiting until Free Friday for this video. This video needs to go up now so that you can go back and look at my other stuff and now not worry about, I don't know what arpeggiating is, so I'm not going to do that lesson, right? Okay. This has got to go up today. Thank you to whoever you are who wrote that. But there was also a bunch of other people that kind of made little comments like, hey, I don't know what arpeggiating was, but that was great. See, like, that's my fault, y'all. I should have started the video with, okay, here's what an arpeggio is. Let's start with the question that was asked. What's the difference between a scale and an arpeggio? And you know what? I'm going to go find the question. Here's the question. It's from Wanderer X. He says, hello, Mr. Ricci. Unfortunately, I can't speak English, and I write with Google Translator. Thank you for taking the time to ask this, and I did respond here underneath. He says, are the arpeggios all minor pentatonic scales? Well, no, they're not. Okay, but let's get there. I practice all minor pentatonic from C to G. Good. How do you know so much? I don't. I know I've learned a little bit at a time over the years, right? And I'm trying to give back a little bit at a time, right? Can you speak German? No. But no is in German, so that's pretty good, right? Or no, is it 9? I don't know. I can't speak German, see, clearly. Lessons would be class. Can you play the train song? I don't know. I would like the grades for it. Greetings from Germany. So let's talk about this. First of all a scale is, okay? Let's start with the scale, the major scale. A scale is a grouping of notes, okay? The major scale is a grouping of 7 notes, right? Right there. And then that 8th note is the C again, so we don't count it twice. So it's a 7-note scale. It's a Pythagoras, right? It's at least 3,000 years old. It's a grouping of notes that works over a lot of chord changes. So you can take those 7 notes and really not even know at all what the chord changes are, and you can play them while they're happening, and you're going to be okay. The diatonic harmonica is tuned to the C major scale, okay? So if I play it in first position, and that's what it was meant to be played in. So people who are like, I don't need to know scales, well, the reason harmonica players who say that, the reason you don't need to know scales is because your harmonica was already tuned to one. You feel me? All right, so like somebody did it for you, bro. or girlfriend, whatever it is, right? Like somebody did that for you. That's why you don't have to know it. Now, check this out. So all these scales that we play, major scale, minor, pentatonic, harmonic, minor, they're all basically deviations from that major scale. Even the chromatic scale. Even that scale. And how do I know for a fact, without reading any history or anything, that all the scales are deviations from that one? Because of the language that we use. 1, C. Sharp 1, C sharp. D. Going up. 1, 2, 3. Flatted third. 3, 4. Flatted 5. 5. Raised 5th, right? 6. Okay, so, and then on and on and on. Okay, that's how I know. It's the language that we use. So the chromatic scale, even though it has all of the notes in it, not just 7, right? We still refer to it based off of the major scale. Yeah, I have made one video on the major scale when when it came to discussing 12th position. But I've really not done a video on this subject. And the major scale is the most important thing you can learn. Not necessarily for playing blues, right, or even a lot of jazz, but definitely it's important for both, right? But like what it's really important for is your thinking, okay, and communicating with other musicians, regardless of what scale you're playing, right? Because it helps you to understand the layout. So maybe I could do a whole video just on that. So the minor pentatonic scale, right? Now I'm gonna switch to second position. I was in first. But second position people talk about is like based on the Mixolydian mode, right? Well, that's true. It's based on it, right? It's not in the Mixolydian mode. However, if I don't bend any notes at all and just blow all and draw all the way up and down the harp, I'm in the Mixolydian. So it's really true. So what that means is that if I play a C major scale in the key of G, I have the G Mixolydian mode. All right? So these things work against each other and with each other and all over the place. That's called modal playing, and that's a whole other subject. And you can find videos that I've done on the Mixolydian and the Ionian and everything. But basically, a scale is a group of notes that will work over any given chord change. So how do you select scales for music? Well, I mean, one of the things that, most people do is you start with a major scale. If the song's in a major key, you start trying to play a major scale. You find out that you can play minor scales over major, and sometimes you put a little blues in there, right? So if the song's a blues, you try a blues scale, right? And then after you get good at that, you maybe start trying to put in some major scale stuff or some major pentatonic stuff. And you find out what works. Once you get a little bit of the language of music and you start to recognize what notes are in the chord, then you can start selecting scales based on the chord changes. And you may select 1 or 2 or 3 scales for just one song or as a basis of thought, even if you deviate from the scales. Sometimes people will ask me the question, Jason, what scale were you in? And I'll have to answer, well, I was thinking Mixolydian, or I was thinking Aeolian, or I was thinking Dorian, but this is where I played all these other notes too, right? So what that means is that, yeah, my default approach was Dorian at the time, for example, right? But that didn't mean that I didn't put in a little bit of blues. So like, here's the Dorian mode, which is a C major scale, all right? Again, see how important that is? Played on over the key of D or D minor. So sometimes I'll be playing that and I'll just throw a little blues in, like a flatted fifth, the 6th draw bend. I'm still in Dorian, right? I'm still thinking in Dorian, but I put in a little blues, right? So all of these things are here to give you tremendous amounts of freedom and confidence and allow you to think about like rhythm. So you're not sitting around thinking about what note I'm going to play next. Instead, you're thinking about how am I going to play that note? Or, am I going to play a quarter note, a half note? Am I going to tongue block it? Am I going to lip purse it? Am I going to play staccato? Am I going to play legato? Right? It's freedom. All right? And it's work, and it's frustrating at first. And a lot of you guys, right, are probably most everybody's turned off the video by now. Okay? I know from my Google Analytics, right? Only my hardcore cats out there are still watching right now. And God bless the hardcore cats that are still watching now that don't understand anything I've even said already. And first of all, I could probably say it better. I'm always working on that. But second, no, I didn't understand it for years. So just keep listening. Keep letting this sink in, right? There's not an exam on Tuesday, okay? We're not going to have a pop quiz on this. You got time to let this sink in. The biggest and best thing you're doing right now is still listening to me talk about this stuff when you don't understand it. But having that open mind and that willingness to be like, you know what? I'm going to keep listening and maybe I get this. That is the right frame of mind. And boy, do I still struggle with that when somebody feeds me a new concept and I'm Mr. Open-minded, Mr. Music-loving, professional, meow meow, right? I still get defensive. I still get resistant, okay? It's just normal. We're human, okay? So practice some forgiveness for yourself, but also congratulate yourself for continuing to listen. So scales are a grouping of notes that work over anything. I'll give you an example right now. So I'm going over to Butternote Music, one of my favorite Butternote tracks that I play all the time on this channel. This is a T-Bone Shuffle. So I'm just going to pick a couple of different scales and I'm going to solo over it. And I'm not going to go out of the scale, okay, so that you can see what's going on, right? So we'll start, since it says, you know, since it's a blues song, we'll start with just the blues scale. All right, let me make it even easier. I'm just gonna run the scale up and down. Kind of like, what do you call it? I'll improvise. Okay, so that's all blues scale, right? So let's go to the major pentatonic. Right, little mic. I'll just run the scale up and down. Okay, so that's just a major pentatonic, right? How about the major scale, second position? So anyway, like, yeah, they're just different things, right? Mixolydian mode, right? So just all the notes of the major pentatonic with a 5 draw. Right. So I can play all of those like individually, or I can just mix them up. So it doesn't matter. They're all just different flavors. Just different flavors. Okay, that's all they are. You know, one sounds pretty, one sounds a little dark, one almost sounds a little mystical, right? Especially if you change the chords behind it. That's what they do. And you can take them and you can play a little of this and a little of that. The best way, of course, is to learn them all by themselves and see what they do and why they're different and what notes change the way they're different. That's scales, y'all. That's what a scale does, okay? Now, what is an arpeggio? First of all, before we get to that, let me talk about something, a word. It's called harmony. What is harmony? What is harmony? All right, harmony is the way that notes relate to the chord, or the notes that are in a chord, and how other notes relate to those, right? So if we have a G, what are the notes that relate most closely to a G major chord? So in order to know that, I have to know what notes are in a chord. Okay, all an arpeggio is just the notes in the chord. But instead of playing them all at once like this, G major chord holds 2 draw, 3 draw, and 4 draw, or if I'm using the Nashville numbering system, the root note or the 1, the 3, and the 5. G, A, B, C, D. G, B, and D. That's a G chord, okay? What's an arpeggio? It's just playing one of those notes at a time. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a G chord, or what we call a G major triad, those 3 notes, and I'm just playing them one note at a time. Take the famous New Orleans song. All that song is a bunch of arpeggios. That's all it is. Bunch of major arpeggios, and at the very end, you could say that that's a major pentatonic lick. Like juke, the juke lick, right? So it's like Little Walter didn't write that, right? It's as old as time. It's been around. It's been around. It's old as the hills, you know. All an arpeggio is playing one note of the chord at a time. So what's a 6th chord, right? What a 6th chord is, like, you know, that was the video that I did twice, right? What a 6th chord is like, let's take a G, because since we're in C on a C harp, in second position, okay, it's a G major triad or a G chord. So all 3 of these notes, again, right? Those 3 notes, and then I add the 6th note of the scale. So G, A, B, there's the 3rd, right? C, D, there's the 5th, and then E, the 6th. When we listen to a bass player playing bum ba-dum 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 ba-dum, they're always just arpeggiating notes that the guitar player or the piano player is playing one at a time. And usually they're playing all of the notes in that chord, and sometimes notes that are related to that chord that are not in there. All right, so they may be arpeggiating a 7th chord over a 6th chord, which creates sort of a cool tension and stuff, okay? So that's all arpeggiating is. And then when we solo, we have the choice between playing all of the notes in the chord or just a couple of the notes in the chord, right? Or playing them in order or playing them random. Let me go back to the butternote music thing. I'm going to arpeggiate a 6th chord on each one of the changes. It's a 1, 4, 5. I'll be playing in 2nd position, and I'm just going to arpeggiate each one of the chords just like I did in the video. And I'll do that one time around. When I get back to having played it once around, what I'll do is I will start messing with them. So I'll play just one note of the chord, or just 2, or I'll change the order of all 4, 3, or whatever it is, right? Here we go. Just the root. Just playing the root of each chord. Now I'll just play the 3rd of each chord. 5 of each chord. Now I'll arpeggiate, but start playing shit randomly. Arpeggiating is. So it's a choice, right? So I'm listening to the song, and rather than thinking about licks or what did Little Walter play or whoever, I'm just thinking about, well, what are the notes in the chord, and what can I do with, if I learn them well enough, right? What can I do rhythmically, right? To really, you know, have fun. So it's just an idea. I'm just going to take these notes and I'm going to do my own thing with them. And that thing is based on music I listen to. And yeah, sometimes that's Little Walter, right? But see, the amazing thing is that Little Walter was frequently arpeggiating. Little Walter was frequently in a scale. Now, whether he knew that or not is like you and I having a discussion, having an argument in English over whether or not we're speaking English. You may not know what a verb, adjective, pronoun, but you're using all of those things every time you speak to me, and us having an argument over whether or not you knew English or not is ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. But it's good to learn the names of nouns, pronouns, verbs, and adjectives, especially if you would like to talk to other people about how to speak English, right?
Right.
I want to tell you about this. Once you learn the notes that are in a chord, then you can start taking that knowledge of harmony, right? Because that's what harmony is. What are the notes that are related to G and how and why? And then you can start applying that to your scale work. So even though you have a group of notes, say the blues scale, even though you have a group of notes that you know will work over any chord change because you've done it and you had fun and it was easy, now you can start to pick and choose which of those notes you're going to play when, because of their relationship to the chords. Even though I might be playing a scale, initially, as a shortcut to harmony, in other words, something to do that works all the time that I don't have to think about so I can concentrate on rhythm and have fun and have a good time and make music with my boys and get paid and you know, influence people, right? Aside from all that, you can start saying to yourself, oh man, I understand why these notes were picked for this scale, right? And then you can start playing the root of 1 on 1, the root of 4 on 4, the root of 5 on 5, because all of those notes are in the blues scale. And then you can start moving this note. You see that the way one note relates to the first chord is not necessarily the way that it relates to the second chord. It's an absolutely amazing experience. I'm going to end with this. When I was a young man and I was on stage and I was playing, you know, there would be a lot of nights where I had a good night, right? And then there were a lot of nights where I had a bad night. So let me tell you a little bit about what that looked like from my perspective at the time as a young man that didn't know anything about harmony and didn't know anything about scales and didn't know anything about chord structure, okay? So I would be on stage and I would play a lick, and it was a lick that I'd played like before, but for some reason I would feel that this lick was really powerful at that moment. And so did the audience, and everybody would cheer and go crazy. And so I was happy, of course, but I didn't know why. Why was it that that lick sounded so good there, right? So the next night, I would come back, be the same gig, same audience, same amp, same microphone, right? Same song. And I would try to put that lick in again, and it wouldn't do that. And I couldn't understand why. Well, what it was, guys, and this took me years to figure out, was where was the lick in the song. So what I mean by that is, on a certain chord change, that lick took on a different harmonic meaning. So when you learn harmony, when you learn scales, when you learn root notes and flat thirds and flat sevenths, and all this stuff that I throw at you every week, and this video is me trying to explain just a little of it, really, you know, kind of manically, because I'm excited about these questions. Once you learn this stuff, right, this becomes a formula, okay? A formula for how to produce a good night over and over and over again. And what happened when I played that lick at the right time, right? Well, yeah, sure, I might have played a flat 7 over the 4, or a flat third over the 4, which became the 7 of 4, blah, 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 blah. No, that's true. All that's true. But what's really true is I created an emotion. Now, we don't always feel emotions. Richard Pryor said, sometimes I just don't feel fucking funny, right? But what we can do, okay, is we can know how notes relate to chords and the kinds of emotions that they produce in the audience. And then what happens to us? We start doing that, and then we start feeling it, because music is cyclical, and it just does that. It's an absolute magical alchemical formula. And just be good to yourselves and be patient with yourselves and take time to understand it, and take all the time you need. And if you didn't understand any of this video, that's great. It's okay. Come back in a month and watch it again. Start with root notes. What's the root of each chord? That's your first lesson. I hope this helped. I'll see you guys later. Subscribe today. Click the subscribe button for hundreds of free harmonica lessons. If you like what I'm putting down and you'd like to support the cause, go the extra mile, be sure to visit my Patreon page. Patreon patrons, thank you very much. You're making these lessons an absolute priority in my life, no matter how busy I get. A free lesson happens every Friday. For as low as $1 a month, that's 25 cents a lesson, you can become a Patreon patron. If you're doing a little better and you can donate more, that's great. Every time you become a Patreon patron, you're helping somebody else out there that doesn't have a credit card, that doesn't have $1 a month, to continue to get free harmonica instruction and much, much more. Remember, we got product reviews here on this channel. We do videos on addiction and bipolar disorder. We got blues stories. We got performance videos and everything right here on Jason Ricci's YouTube. Subscribe today. I'd like to thank Hohner Harmonicas, and I'd like to thank Blue Moon Harmonicas, making custom parts for any harmonica that you might have at home. Blue Moon has got you. The Lone Wolf Blues Company, pedals, amplifiers, microphones, you name it, much more. Right here out of Louisiana, the Lone Wolf Blues Company is bringing you the best in customer service for almost any kind of amplified blues harmonica needs that you may have. Speaking of amplifiers, Harp Gear amplifiers, check them out. The very best Harp Gear, right out of Ocala, Florida. I got a website, www.mooncat.org. Check me out on mooncat.org. I got tour dates happening all over the place. I'm going all over the country this year, playing tour dates with J.J. Appleton, with Damon Fowler, with J.P. Soares, with my own band, with Joe Crown, all kinds of people. www.mooncat.org. T-shirts, lesson information, all of that. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. We do this every single Friday, and then every now and then I throw you some more stuff right here at Jason Ricci's YouTube. A Mooncat, love and appreciate all y'all. Thank you.